However, sometimes things go wrong. So errors can occur if the user can't identify the product. They're really unsure about what it is or what it does. The product does not promote manipulating it in the proper way. For example, if the location of controls is not consistent with the user's mental model of the object. So you'll notice an example of that is mobile phones. We're fairly consistent over time in how the early mobile phones were created to what we're using now. So you could probably track quite a nice layout of buttons, and the way that the facing screen is kind of flat, and we still use even icons that look like buttons. So we're quite familiar with that particular narrative. The product might inhibit ease of use. So for example, you need to read a detailed manual to figure out how to put something together, rather than using intuition or curiosity to explore a product. Anyone who's ever put together something that's, perhaps a little complex, even IKEA manuals sometimes are quite hard to read, but they have designers specifically working on their manuals to try and make them really easy. But it doesn't always work out that way. And finally, designing a product that does not fit into the symbolic environment it will exist within. So if we go back to the example of the swimming pool, where we need products that are safe, within an area that has water, we know that any electronic goods in that space need to be encased so that the electronic components are not affected by water. So if you've got like a pool radio or a floating radio, at first it might feel a little unusual to have like a radio in a swimming pool, but because we know that that object is encased in some way by some material, we will assume that it's safe for us to use in the swimming pool. However, if we're in a bathroom and we're using a hairdryer, that's a dangerous situation, because you know that the hairdryer is not encased, or I haven't come across any that are completely encased, otherwise they wouldn't work. And then, you'd need to be thinking about whether it's going to be safe to use an object that generates heat next to, say, a bathtub where you're running a bath. So designing a product that does not really fit into a symbolic environment can be fraught with danger for an end user. So we have a big responsibility to make sure that our designs are safe and fit for purpose. If you haven't come across Alberto Alessi, then I do encourage you to have a look at his work. Most of you who have done graphics with me will have worked on Michael Graves's Whistling Kettle, which was a work commissioned by Alessi. And Alessi says a true design work must move people, convey emotions, bring back memories, surprise, and go against common thinking. So a true design must move people. How are we going to do that? The object needs to convey emotion. Are there tricks that we can use? Are there certain colors we can use to convey emotion? Can an object bring back memories? I think it can. And to push the boundaries a little further, can objects surprise and go against common thinking? So, really interesting quote by Alberto Alessi. Why do we love certain objects and dislike others? So as you know, I love this kettle. It's something about the material combination, the way the little bird whistles. I find the whole thing quite poetic, like when the water's boiling, the little bird whistles. I think it's very clever. It also is reminiscent of Bauhaus design, which is a period of design history which I really love. So I guess maybe that's why I like that object. Can objects speak to us, and do they have a personality? A beautiful dramatic watering can, which is also quite clever. Do objects look like us? The Mendini corkscrews. Obviously they have traits reminiscent of human beings, and it's quite clever the way the one on the left in particular raises its little arms as you're using it. So it kind of has that human quality, apart from the fact that they look like humans. And then the object on the right, a sofa by Salvador Dali, a surrealist artist. Can banal or mundane objects be elevated? The desk on the left is the king's desk. So think about your desk at home. Does it look like this? Probably not. I mean, you might have some ornate furniture at home. Nothing wrong with that. But is it at this scale? It's a really elaborate desk for really what is something that holds some papers, some pens, and you sit at that desk to write. Okay, so this desk is certainly elevated, and it's elevated in a style reminiscent of the Rococo era, where everything was very flamboyant. You know, gold leaf on a lot of interiors, frames, furniture and objects. You've got floral decorations, very natural motifs coming through both the furniture and the interior. And it's really just an abundance of glitz and glamour. And on the right, you've got another object that's been elevated. So this really funny colander by Philippe Starck, magnificent designer. Also worked quite a lot with the Lessie, and obviously in his own right as well. So a funny colander in the sense that you've got these little bunnies around the rim, got these little gold carrots to make the colander stand upright, and I imagine that this would be quite the conversation piece. The Girontondo tray, it's a little playful, so you've probably seen these sorts of motifs in preschools when you used to do little cutouts of human chains, human beings kind of all holding hands. So it was a nice surprise, bringing, you know, everyday elements into our domestic objects.